Welcome to the Local Marketing Source Weekly Update, brought to you by localmarketingsource.com. This update is taken from the Local Marketing Source Professional Development Program for local marketers.
This week's Local Marketing Update is brought to you by Scott Gallagher. Scott is the co-founder of Local Marketing Source and has become the recognized expert in providing online marketing services to local businesses. Follow Scott on Twitter @ScottGallagher5 and on Facebook.com/ScottPGallagher.
Hey guys, well, Scott Gallagher here with Local Marketing Source for our weekly faculty call and our weekly industry update brought to you by localmarketingsource.com. We've got a few different things this week to talk to you about and some nice continued updates on the social front for Google. And Google has just recently launched what they call their knowledge graph. Well, it is based off of their own social network and their own social graph, as we've learned from Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook. But nonetheless, this is something that Google has been hinting about for months. And today the technology is available, and that would be May 16th. Happy birthday, Dad, if you're on the line, which I know you're not on the line, but you may listen to these from time to time. Happy birthday to you. But the knowledge graph, it's really like a technical term used to describe what they call how sets of objects are connected. Yeah, to me, this sounds like technical talk and whatnot, but what are objects? And objects could be an individual's profile. An object could be a product page. And they're utilizing their link graph to see how pages all link to each other. Well, we know that. And with that relevancy on that social graph, they're putting an additional layer. And so we're likely going to see that social graph built into their algorithm. It's almost like they might have enough social information now to incorporate that into algorithmic changes. We may see that. What we've seen and what we're going to talk about as well is some other sites that have just completely dropped out of Google's index. The SEO community has been in an uproar in the last few weeks with these recent algorithmic changes. I've seen some changes on some of our sites, well, my own personal sites, and I know because these are techniques that were deployed a long time ago. And we look at link counts now. Some of the sites that are linking to my blog that when we did, for example, social bookmarking, even article marketing with a lot of different article sites, those sites are no longer showing in the Google index. Well, they've cleaned up their algorithm, and now adding that social layer it's going to be awesome. Essentially, those businesses, those sites that have that social front, that have that social exposure, it could be over the next 3 years, it could be over the next 6 months or 5 years, who knows? Only Google knows. But the fact is, I don't really believe that they've got a tremendous amount of social data. I don't know what the last figures are. Maybe it's around 50 million, 40 million people on Google Plus versus 800 million on Facebook. But you would think you'd be able to get a good social paradigm with 50 million people. You would think. Until you start to look at other data. Now, I'm just talking off the top of my head here and trying to go back to data that we talked about a couple of months ago. But there was a metric that became extremely important when looking at the social networks, and that's the average amount of time that a user spends on that site in a particular month. Now, I don't remember the particular amount of minutes that it was for Facebook users. But for Google users, Google Plus users, it was 3.5 minutes per month. For Facebook users, it was in the hours. So it doesn't really matter what that metric was specifically for Facebook, whether it was 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. I think it's somewhere around 2.5 or 3 hours or 3.5 hours a month or some ridiculous different number than Google Plus. Well, what does that indicate about its users? How much is going on inside of Facebook on the social front if every user is on that network an exponential amount of time? So there's either a whole bunch of people on Google Plus that don't use it, or there's a small number of people that do use it, and they're within their own communities. You see, how does Google launch its stuff? Well, they don't do it through traditional channels. They go through tech sectors. And they also put a big push on the celebrity front. I don't know how many celebrities are on Google Plus. It's not my social network of choice. I'm on there. So I don't know how much social data they really have. Who am I to say? I don't know. But understanding what their objective is likely going, or what it likely is, and at the rate that Google wants to move, at the rate that Google does move, and what they've likely collected, they don't have enough to roll this out into algorithmic changes and right across the board in, say, 6 months. This absolutely is a longer-term rollout. Could be 3 to 5 years before. Who knows? I don't even know where they're trying to get to, so it's kind of difficult for me to suggest possibly how long social rollout would be within their algorithm. And again, the term social rollout, what the heck does that mean? I've never heard that before. I don't even know if that's going to happen or even if that exists. We're just hypothesizing. It all started with that knowledge graph. Now, the other aspects of the knowledge graph isn't just the implications to Google's algorithm, but of course are the fact to enhance the user experience while on Google. And people are using search engines in a variety of different ways now. The fact that you can do a search and get airplane information right on Google, you don't have to go to another site. You can get review information for businesses. You can get times when they're open. You don't even have to go to places pages right now. Right on the front SERP, there's been a tremendous amount of changes over the last several years in a variety of different ways to be able to enhance the user experience. But from the local front, you could roll your mouse over the local listings and get an understanding of that business. It pops up and it shows, and this essentially is a part of that knowledge graph that Google is utilizing. You may roll your mouse over an image, and the entire profile of that person, the collected data of that individual on the internet is brought together. Google is pretty good at being a data amalgamator. Well, places, everything local is data amalgamation. They're collecting data from a variety of sources that they can see. Obviously, Facebook is not one of them. But they bring it all together and they try to determine relevancy and compile that data into a format that they feel is displayed. This has created a lot of problems with companies like TripAdvisor, for example, where Google goes and pulls the review data. Somebody goes to google.com and does a search, and Google shows reviews from TripAdvisor. Well, it was, in that example, there was a lot back and forth over the last few years as to show and no show and show and no show. And TripAdvisor, wanted to actually sue Google, and I don't know if there's been any outcome of that case, along with another portal. And the reason why is they say that Google is taking traffic away from them. But in the other breath, they say because Google Organic is their largest source of traffic. Well, what the hell is the responsibility of a search engine? That's the question. Is a search engine there just to provide results and send people to the internet? Or is a search engine there to provide information to a user? Knowledge base is that next layer to provide information to the user. That TripAdvisor scenario is an example that's spread right across the board of my websites, competitors, industry. local sites. I mean, in the restaurant industry, in the service-based industry, in the home professionals. So TripAdvisor really doesn't have a leg to stand on, considering the depth that Google is going to with data amalgamation. You know, collecting items on, well, they say that they've collected 3 billion facts on 500 million objects. And objects can be, as we had mentioned, paintings, you know, property, the music albums, you know, locations, movies, directors, actors. That's a lot of information. So this was an interesting article that I just wanted to talk about. You know, in wake of Penguin, can you be sued for linking to others? Well, this was new to me. This is not the world I play in, so it's, you know, my business, I haven't been scrambling, but the more I read about these webmasters that are just desperately trying to fix poor SEO work done within a site, they're getting bad link warnings sent from Google. As far as I know, we haven't received a single one. I can't discuss what it requires to get a bad link warning. But the only way to remove that warning ultimately is to remove that link. And therefore, by violating these terms and conditions, the question within the internet marketing community is whether these sites that you're linking to can get involved in a cross lawsuit with Google. It's interesting. It's something that I'm intrigued by and want to read further and learn about. But I don't get it. I don't get when you've got a democracy on the internet and these businesses just the TripAdvisor thing. You know, you're putting yourself out there. You're getting the majority of your traffic from one place. They're just trying to make their users have a better experience, and then you complain about it. No surprise that the Yahoo CEO is out, huh? What is it? The last 3 faculty calls, we've seen some really bizarre, awkward activity happening. He made a comment a month and a half ago. It just said Yahoo doesn't need the change, and we did a poll on our faculty call, and I asked, what does Yahoo mean to you guys? And we got a whole bunch of different answers. There was not one answer that was in alignment with the CEO of Yahoo, of what he said. This is what we are. We don't need to change. Everybody knows who we are. Well, we had a long discussion on that, and indicated that no, this guy's likely not a good fit for this organization. What the hell are they doing? Well, if he didn't quit, he would have got fired. That's what happens, I guess, when you lie in the world about what you've done. It always, always, always comes back. An individual by the name of Vanessa Schneider. You're going to start hearing more about her. She is kind of like the voice of Google for Google Places, a community manager for the Places Forum, and she's providing weekly content now, distributable via YouTube, very similar to what Matt Cutts does on the web spam and organic side. So with her weekly takeaway, there was a few things. We've talked about all of these already in previous weeks, so it's nothing new. But the bug of we currently do not support this location, they publicly come out and said that bug has been completely squashed. Google's also rolled out some new bulk upload tools. I think we talked about that one last week. You can now upload, instead of uploading photos, you can use a URL of a photo in Places. That feature is back. Yeah, that's it. Blumenthal's got a good post that I wanted to talk about. What should you tell a client when Google loses their reviews? A 4-part plan. Well, first I should suggest why do I want to talk about this. What do you mean Google loses their reviews? Well, if you haven't been on the calls, this is a current problem, a current bug within Google Places. All of a sudden, sometimes the images and videos don't show up, and sometimes the reviews don't show up. Typically, they will come back within 2 weeks. Far too often have the pictures come back and not the reviews. This is a problem Google knows about. They continue to say that they've been working on it. It's been ongoing now for, I don't know, two maybe 3 months. And in many cases, the reviews don't come back, but the images and the videos do. What you should do is on the local marketing source site on the resources page, there are a bunch of Google links. You can go to Google and type in Google Places best practices, and you'll find us right up at the top, I think number 1 or 2. And number 1 below Google, that's what it is. And on there's a link to submit a problem. You could also go to Google and do that. Now, when you do run into this, Mike's 4-part plan is about the communication you should have with a client. Now, this is very important. We know that client communication is critical, and expectations are absolutely crucial in communication. And therefore, your very first step should be to educate that client. Make sure you have on file the Google blog post. You can do a quick search in Google to be able to find exactly what Google has to say about that particular problem. You can also do a search and find Mike Blumenthal's post. He's got a very good post on there that discusses the challenge, and that could be, just a couple of links. You don't need to do 3 or 4. Just a couple to indicate that you're very well of a problem. You're taking all the initiatives to correct it. But then make some fun out of it and laugh about it a little bit. And I mean, it's the reality of it, right? The fact that you're dealing with this situation, you don't have control of Google, and you've got to do what you've got to do. Like anything in life, number 3, create your plan and stick with your plan. Even when you're behind in the game, you've got to still continue with your strategy in order to get through. And that's exactly what you should be doing with your clients, is encouraging them to stick through this and continue to move forward with the plan. And then finally, if you don't have these systems in place, advise the business to take control of where their business is going. Now, what I mean by that is their customers are online, their customers are active online. You need to educate them that they need to be watching these top profile sites. You could also show them a tool called getlisted.org, put in the business name and the zip code, and it will collect review data for you. You can do what we do and go to getlisted.org and collect review data and then put it together in a nice form once a month. I wish there was a service that would do that for us, something that would be automated. Maybe there's a web developer out there today for internet marketing agencies to create review acquisition software. It surprises me that there's no consumer-driven sites that supply that. Google has announced their next series of Learn webinars. I just wanted to introduce a couple of these out to you. because whether they got 10 or 12 here, but webinar number 4, June 5th, it's at 10 a.m. Pacific time. It's mobilizing your site, and they've got some new tools that they're going to be launching, and they've launched, and they'll be discussing, so you'll want to check that out. Also on June 6th at 10 a.m. is a marketing webinar on understanding the U.S. smartphone consumer. You're probably going to get an abundance of data, and as a marketer, we're going to be able to further understand how consumers are utilizing smartphones for commerce purchases. Now, of course, Google's spin is going to be paid channels, but at least we can understand exactly how consumers are using these products a little further through their eyes. June 12th at 10 a.m. they have a webinar called Get Local with Zip Code Targeting to Increase Sales and Leads. That is going to be a good one. June 14th at 10 a.m. Search Optimization, Tips, Tricks, and Tools. So those are 4 webinars that out of the bunch that should definitely be considered. And having said all of that, that is the conclusion of this week's weekly update brought to you by localmarketingsource.com.
That concludes this Local Marketing Weekly Update, brought to you by localmarketingsource.com. This update is provided from the Local Marketing Source Professional Development Program for local marketers. Visit localmarketingsource.com for additional resources focused on online marketing for local businesses.